Recently, I asked you guys in a community post what the freest demon you have ever found was. The easiest of easy demons, just a free demon on your profile and a free 10 stars, and I compiled a list of 10 free demons for today's video that you may have either never heard of or never bothered to beat. A lot of lists of free demons on YouTube are pretty much just the same few levels, from the Nightmare to Platinum Adventure and all that, which honestly are iconic and incredibly easy, and I did include those in the in-game list that I made of these levels. But the point of this video is to shed light on some other free demons that you most likely might not have heard of. So today we'll be going through 10 free easy demons, from hardest to easiest, and I'll give a couple tips along the way and show the entire level. And stick around to the end of the video to get the list ID so you can access all of these levels at once without having to search them individually. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton, and you could always undo it later. I'm currently in a subscriber race with the population of Liechtenstein, which is a European country with roughly 40,000 residents. If your favorite free easy demon isn't included in this video, feel free to comment it down below, and without further ado, let's get into the video. First up at number 10, we have Catch the Rainbow. I would definitely recommend using the low detail mode on this one, as it's very disorienting with the full decoration. Generally, this level is fairly easy and pretty well balanced. I would probably consider the pre-drop and the UFO to be the most confusing, which is why I would recommend doing a practice run of this level before you fully go for it. But overall, it's pretty simple. It's just ever so slightly more difficult in my personal opinion playing the levels. It could be different for other people based off different skill sets, which is probably going to be the case for a lot of the demons in this video. I've put them in order of most to least difficult in my opinion, but it could be different for other people. I'd also probably recommend doing the UFO section in one complete run before playing from zero.
So it sounds like my man's double down. Sometimes I think it's good to evaluate your life when your YouTube career has now surrounded to the point where you have the joke about both black people and Adolf Hitler in one sentence. It wasn't even two separate one-offs. You just had to collaborate it like it was a freaking fusion dance. Why? Why? You got this channel right here.
Next up at number 9 is Shiver, and Shiver is absolutely free. There's just one problem: it's pretty unbalanced. The entire level is pretty well sight readable and not really that difficult, but then towards the end there are a couple parts using 4x speed and also with a bit of basic memorization, so I would very much recommend doing a couple practice runs to get the hang of the memorization before you go from zero. But other than that, this level is like a 6-star. It's really easy, especially if you use the LDM, which is even easier to deal with. So yeah, I'd also say this is probably one of the more enjoyable ones for me personally, but it is still a little unbalanced. Next up at number 8 is Demon Forest, and to be quite frank with you, this is probably the level on this list that I enjoyed the least. Partially because it's such an old level, it relies on mirror portals for its difficulty, but honestly, once you can get around that, this level is like a 5-star. Because it relies so heavily on sort of like cheap tricks in order to make this level more difficult, and the gameplay itself in a vacuum is kind of just like a 4-star, I'd probably recommend just doing like 5 practice runs back to back and then trying to beat it, which would probably be the fastest version of trying to complete this level. Once you do a couple practice runs of it, it is very easy, so really it just depends on if you want that extra 10 stars or not. That being said, it took me like 5 minutes to beat, so it's not too bad.
This level is dog shit.
Next up at number 7, we have What Is It, which honestly has some of the easiest gameplay in this list. All of the difficulty comes from the transitions. The actual gameplay is like a 6-star. I would definitely recommend using the LDM as it makes the decoration at least slightly less disorienting, and when you're doing your practice run before, which I would also recommend doing because, you know, it'll make the transitions in this level a little easier to deal with. Try using the show hitboxes feature with 2.2, because honestly it does help a fair bit when you're beating this level. Overall it's pretty solid, just do a practice run or two beforehand. Next up we have Sticks, which honestly doesn't have very many tips I can give you. It's fairly straightforward. I definitely recommend doing 1 or 2 practice runs, as the end of the level is a little more faster paced and is kind of like a flow gameplay section. All I'm going to say is the UFO part does have jump indicators for a reason, and you should definitely follow them because that's probably the hardest part of the level if you don't. But yeah, it's fairly straightforward and it's also a fairly short level, so honestly, not too bad. Moving into the top 5, we have Luminescent, which is personally probably my favorite level on this list. While this level is fast-paced, most of the clicks are just buffers, and it's honestly free once you do a practice run or two. The little short wave spam sections are honestly a lot easier than you would think. They really only require 1 or 2 clicks, so if you're not very good with spam, this level is still pretty easy. But yeah, there's not really any more tips I can give. This is a pretty straightforward one, so have fun with it. Next up at number 4, we have Always Lying. The gameplay does require 1 practice one at least because it's a little hard to sight read. A lot of the orbs pop up as you approach the area where you're supposed to click and all of that, so it is harder to sight read, but it's also 40 seconds long. I have no idea how this thing got rated, but if you do a practice run and then start from 0 immediately afterwards, you're pretty much good to go. It'll take you like 2 minutes.
This level's like 2 seconds long, dude.
Entering the top 3, we're starting to get to the ones that are just absurdly easy. Like, these should not have been rated demons at all. None of these should have been rated demons, but the ones previously are like maybe 8 stars. This one is like, we're starting to get to the part where like all of these are just free. So this level's called IS, or is, I don't know, it's just the letter I and then the letter S. And you honestly don't even need a practice run. There's jump indicators for you. That's kind of about it. The pre-drop is probably the hardest part in my opinion. And if you don't do a practice run, that'll just be the part you get the most practice with by default. So honestly, it's a pretty free level. Also should be noted, the last UFO is sync based. So that'll make it relatively easy to sight read, even if you're going through just fluking it. Okay, the top two is pretty much just tied, but at number 2 we have Vjorg? Whatever, I don't know, I don't care. The LDM on this level is ridiculous. Like, unironically, it is the closest thing you can get to just show layout, but because it's the official LDM, it's legitimate. So yeah, just use the LDM and there's like no decoration and it's very straightforward. The only reason I put this at number 2 instead of number 1 is I would technically recommend using a practice run just because it's a bit more fast-paced gameplay, but you really don't need it. This is just completely free. I have no idea how this got rated Demon, but don't question it. Rejoice, I guess.
Dude, the LDM in this level is just cheating.
And finally, at number 1, we have Blindfolder. It's a little disorienting, but it is literally free. There's no twist to it. You don't even need a practice run. It is probably the easiest easy demon I've ever played.
Trollolol at the end, jeez.
So I've compiled all of these demons into one list in-game. They're in the same order that they were mentioned in this video, with Blindfolder being the easiest at the top, all the way down to Catch the Rainbow at the bottom. Again, really at this point, they're all so close to each other in difficulty. One could be harder than the other depending on your skill set. It's really going to be different for everyone. I also included the 5 classic sort of like these are free demons that everyone's beaten before if you're newer to the game. But the top 10 are the more relatively unknown ones that are much newer, with maybe the exception of Demon Forest. This is the list ID. I'll put it in the description of the video, but that's how you find the list I made in-game. So yeah, be sure to check it out. It has all the levels just compiled, so you don't have to go looking for them individually. Oh yeah, also, when I made this, it says that the last time it was updated was 37 years ago. I'm not even that old.